It was a day when ash, not snow, was falling. On the streets, people were rummaging through garbage, and even dogs fought over bones beside them. I picked up a few grains of rice that had fallen between them and ate them. My hands were frozen numb, and there was a taste of cement in my mouth. That day, I learned for the first time just how cruel hunger can be. My name is Hyejin, 15 years old this year. People call me a Kochibi, but I've never seen flowers or swallows. I only knew hunger, cold, and fear. My father passed away from illness, and my mother crossed the border when I was 7. After that day, I was raised by my grandmother. She made acorn jelly to sell at the marketplace. I collected empty cans beside her. If I sold those cans, I could buy a handful of corn for the day. That was my everything. At night, when the marketplace lights went out, people disappeared one by one. I would curl up next to a collapsed tent and sleep. Even with my ears covered, I could hear someone's groans through the sound of the wind. Today, I must survive. That was my daily prayer. Someone asked me, "What's your dream?" I thought for a long time but couldn't answer. I didn't know what a dream was. Just a day with a full stomach, a warm room that was my everything. Then one day, a single name heard from across the river shook my heart. Mom. That one word tore my chest apart. That night, I made a decision. Before starving to death, I had to find her, wherever that place was, even if death was waiting. This is the story of one girl, a girl born in North Korea, who crossed the river of death and finally found her dream. The story I will tell you today is reconstructed based on true events. 2010, North Hamgyong Province, North Korea. Hyejin lived alone with her grandmother. Her parents had crossed into China when Hyejin was young, leaving behind a promise to return with money. But they never came back. All Hyejin had left was her grandmother. Every day at 4 a.m., her grandmother would wake up to boil acorn jelly. Dotori muk was jelly made from acorns or corn, a common marketplace food in North Korea. Her grandmother's hands were covered with burn mark scars from touching hot pots every day, but she never once said it hurt. Hyejin, we must sell today. If we don't sell today, we'll starve tomorrow. Hyejin nodded. She learned too late that those words meant I love you. The marketplace had everything: radios smuggled from China, secretly grown vegetables, and hope. Hyejin and her grandmother set up their spot in a corner, but most days, not even half the jelly sold. Her grandmother fed the remaining jelly to Hyejin, lying that she was full. When winter came, her grandmother's cough began. At first, it was a light cough, but it grew deeper, and every night Hyejin couldn't sleep because of her grandmother's coughing. There was no money for medicine. Hyejin picked up discarded medicine bottles from the market and shook them with water. It had no effect. "It's okay, I'm okay." Her grandmother lived with those words on her lips, but that "I'm okay" was the saddest lie in the world. One morning in January 2011, Hyejin shook her grandmother. There was no response. Cold hands, stopped breath. In that moment, the world lost its sound. Hyejin couldn't even cry in a corner of the marketplace. If she cried, she would be taken away. Even showing emotion was dangerous in that society. After that day, Hyejin was left alone in the world, an 11-year-old girl who had to survive alone. That winter, when she ate snow instead of rice, Hyejin finally grew up. After her grandmother left, Hyejin's life became hell. She could endure hunger, but she was afraid of being caught. In North Korea, there's a term: kochibi, children wandering the streets without parents. Hyejin became one of them. If caught on the streets, they were dragged to youth detention centers. That place was nothing less than hell for children. Forced labor, starvation, violence. Rumors said once you went in, it was hard to come out alive. Hyejin always hid like a shadow. When security agents appeared, she would throw herself into garbage piles. The stench was overwhelming, but it saved Hyejin. One day, her friend Youngsu handed Hyejin half a piece of bread. "Eat this, my family did a bit better today." Tears poured out at the warm smell of that bread, but Hyejin couldn't cry. Even tears were a luxury in people's eyes. At night, the distant sound of loudspeakers, "Long live the great general." Beneath it, Hyejin whispered, "I am alive today." That was Hyejin's proof of survival. Hyejin did anything to survive day by day. She picked up fallen grain kernels at the market and rummaged through discarded food waste bins. Shame had disappeared long ago. Survival was the only goal. Then one day, Hyejin met a woman at the marketplace. The woman quietly approached Hyejin and said, "Do you want to go to China?" That one sentence changed Hyejin's fate. China, to North Koreans, it sounded like paradise, a place where you could eat your fill and earn money. But it was also a dangerous place. If caught, you'd be dragged back and sent to a political prison camp. Hyejin pondered. If she stayed here, she would eventually starve or be caught. But if she crossed the river, she might survive. Hyejin looked at the riverside every day, the Tumen River. Beyond that river was China. The moonlight sparkling on the waves looked like a path. The thought that someday she must leave this land grew stronger. Hyejin made her decision. She would cross the river. August 2015, a night after heavy rain had stopped. Hyejin was now 15 years old. In her hand was her grandmother's worn handkerchief. Inside was a piece of paper with her mother's name written on it. It was the only keepsake her grandmother had given her before passing away. "Hyejin, your mother is in South Korea. Someday you can go there too." Believing those words, Hyejin headed to the riverside. There was a broker woman who helped with defection. She was also one of those trying to leave North Korea. The river was dark, and the sound of water was loud. Border guards were on patrol. If caught, they could be shot. Hyejin's heart beat frantically. "Hyejin, if you're scared, let's go back," the woman said. But Hyejin shook her head. "I have nowhere to go back to." Those words were surprisingly firm, even to Hyejin herself. As she entered the water, the cold penetrated to her bones. It was August, but the river water was ice cold. In the fear that rushed like waves, Hyejin held her breath. The current was strong. If swept away once, it would be the end. Her feet couldn't touch the bottom. Hyejin desperately swam, flailing her arms. Swimming that her grandmother never taught her, she did by instinct alone. Water entered her nose and mouth. She coughed, but she couldn't make a sound. When her fingertips were freezing, someone's hand grabbed Hyejin. "It's okay, we're almost there." It was the woman. That touch felt like an angel. The two pushed through the water and moved forward. How much time had passed? Time sense disappeared. They just kept moving forward, forward. Finally, her feet touched the ground. Hyejin collapsed on the ground, covered in mud. Her breath rose to her chin. When she opened her eyes, Hyejin was lying under the Chinese sky. She had survived. Hyejin cried. For the first time, she cried out loud. It was okay now. No security agents, no detention centers. Hyejin had gained freedom. But that was just another beginning. Arriving on Chinese soil was not freedom, but the start of a new terror. In China, Hyejin had no name, no ID card, no family register. She was simply a person who didn't exist. For North Korean defectors, China was not a safe place. If caught by Chinese police, they would be repatriated to North Korea. Repatriation, those two words were a nightmare. Hyejin lived disguised as a Joseonjok child. Joseonjok are Korean Chinese people living in China. Hyejin tried to change her accent. If her North Korean way of speaking came out, she could be discovered. With the broker woman's help, Hyejin got a job at a small restaurant. Working as a dishwasher in the back room of the restaurant, she was startled by every door sound. Whenever police came for inspections, Hyejin hid herself. The restaurant owner was Joseonjok. She knew Hyejin's identity but pretended not to know. "This food is yours, don't leave any." Hyejin's throat choked up at those warm words. Hyejin ate 3 meals a day, something unimaginable in North Korea. In front of the rice bowl, Hyejin cried every time. One day, one of the customers asked, "Why are you so quiet?" Hyejin couldn't answer. She vividly remembered the time when a single word could cost a life. Every night, her mother's face came to mind. Hyejin's memory of her mother's appearance was faint, but she believed that if she followed that face, she could meet her someday. She endured with that one hope. Life in China was a continuous tension every day. Every time a police car passed, it felt like her heart stopped. Even when walking on the street, she walked with her head down. She couldn't stand out. One day, a man came to the restaurant. He quietly said to Hyejin, "Do you want to go to South Korea?" Hyejin's heart raced. South Korea, the place where her mother was, the place where freedom was. But at the same time, she was afraid. From China to South Korea was thousands of kilometers. That journey was a life-risking adventure. How long does it take? At most a year, at least 6 months, but I can't guarantee it. 1 year. Nobody knew what would happen during that long time, but Hyejin made her decision. She couldn't hide here forever. Spring 2016, Hyejin embarked on the route to South Korea. That path was a continuous series of endless waiting and terror. The route through southern China to Southeast Asia, paying money to brokers, moving in hiding, sometimes walking, sometimes hiding in cars. Laos, Thailand, Cambodia. Hyejin passed through countries she was seeing for the first time, but she had no leisure to enjoy the beautiful scenery. She only thought about surviving. And finally, November 2016, Hyejin arrived at the South Korean embassy. There, Hyejin became a citizen of the Republic of Korea for the first time. She received a plane ticket to Seoul. When the plane took off, Hyejin looked out the window. She saw the sun rising above the clouds. The light was so beautiful that Hyejin cried again. November 15, 2016, Incheon Airport. Hyejin stepped on Korean soil for the first time. The airport was too big and too bright. People laughed and talked freely. Could this really be the same country? It was so different from North Korea. Beyond the airport glass door, a woman was standing, an unfamiliar yet strangely warm gaze. In that moment, Hyejin knew, Mom. When that one word came out of her mouth, her mother's tears fell first. The two couldn't say anything, they just held each other and cried. 15 years of lost time rushed in at once. After leaving Hyejin, her mother crossed from China to South Korea, and she worked at a restaurant in Seoul, saving money. She thought of Hyejin every day. She searched for brokers to bring Hyejin over, but communication with North Korea had been cut off long ago. When she heard the news that her grandmother had passed away, her mother collapsed. Her heart was torn apart by the fact that Hyejin was left alone, but there was nothing she could do. She could only pray, and in 2016, she received contact from a broker. Hyejin was in China. Her mother gathered all her money to help Hyejin come to South Korea. It's okay now. It's all over now. Her mother said that, but Hyejin knew. This wasn't the end but another beginning. Now she had to live, not hide, but start a real life. Her mother was living in a small apartment on the outskirts of Seoul. The two started a new life there. Her mother still worked at the restaurant, and Hyejin entered Hanawon. Hanawon is a place that helps North Korean defectors adapt to South Korean society. There, Hyejin learned about Korean culture and systems, democracy, freedom, human rights, words she had never heard in North Korea. The 3 months at Hanawon were a continuous shock for Hyejin. South Koreans could criticize the government. They could connect to anywhere in the world through the internet. Anyone could go wherever they wanted. This is freedom. Hyejin finally realized that she had lived trapped all her life, and that she was free now. After graduating from Hanawon, Hyejin entered school. She transferred into 3rd year of middle school, 16 years old, a little later than other children, but Hyejin didn't give up. Korean classrooms were too quiet. Instead of North Korean slogans, English words could be heard. Words in textbooks were unfamiliar, and children's laughter flowed quickly. Hyejin's North Korean accent leaked out at the end of every word. She tried to say friend instead of comrade, but she kept making mistakes. The children laughed. You talk really weird. At first, she was embarrassed. Hyejin sat in a corner of the classroom with her mouth shut, but the teacher was different. Hyejin, your way of speaking isn't weird, it's just different, and different is special. Those words gave Hyejin strength. Hyejin began to slowly open her mouth. She asked questions and gave answers. The children also gradually became accustomed to Hyejin, but studying was really difficult. The education she learned in North Korea and Korean education were completely different. Math formulas were similar, but English had to be learned almost from scratch. History and social studies subjects were even more shocking. The history she learned in North Korea was false. She had learned that South Korea started the Korean War, but in reality, North Korea invaded first. Kim Il-sung was not a hero but a dictator. Hyejin was confused. Things she had believed all her life crumbled, but at the same time, she was glad to know the truth. At night, she clung to a dictionary and studied. During the day, she raised her hand from the back seat of the classroom. I can do it too, she endured with that one thought. Her mother said every day while packing lunch boxes at dawn, "Hyejin, it's okay to be slower than others. The path you walk, no one can walk for you." Those words became Hyejin's guiding light. As time passed, Hyejin gradually adapted. She also made friends. A girl named June approached first. "Hyejin, let's have lunch together." Hyejin choked up at that one sentence. She learned for the first time how grateful it was for someone to extend their hand first. June taught Hyejin about Korean culture, idol groups, dramas, fashion, a world she couldn't have imagined in North Korea. Hyejin found it all fascinating and fun, but sometimes it was hard. Things that children took for granted were unfamiliar to Hyejin. Even ordering coffee at a cafe was difficult. She couldn't read the English on the menu and didn't know how to order. "One Americano, please." She doesn't know how much she practiced to say that. When she drank her first coffee, Hyejin smiled. "Now I'm becoming a Korean too." In her first year of high school, Hyejin received a special opportunity. It was an exchange student program to America selected by the school. Her teacher recommended Hyejin. "Hyejin, I hope you go. You need to see a wider world." Hyejin pondered. Her English was poor, and she was afraid of the country called America. The words American imperialism learned in North Korea still lingered in her head, but her mother encouraged Hyejin. "Go, you need to see with your own eyes to know the truth." Summer 2018, Hyejin boarded a plane to Los Angeles, America. 18 years old, her first solo trip in life. Her first impression of America was freedom. She felt it from the airport. People had different skin colors and languages, but no one looked at them strangely. Everyone seemed equal. The homestay family Hyejin stayed with was a white couple with an adopted Korean daughter. They warmly welcomed Hyejin. "Welcome, Hyejin. This is your home now." The house was spacious, and the rooms were large. Hyejin had her own room for the first time. In North Korea, she shared one small room with her grandmother, and in South Korea, she shared a small room with her mother. It was fascinating to have her own space. School was even more surprising. Students freely discussed in every classroom. Teachers and students conversed as equals, a scene unimaginable in North Korea. One day, during social studies class, the teacher asked, "What do you think about freedom?" Hyejin raised her hand. In awkward English, she answered, "Freedom is not free. Someone fight for it, someone die for it." The classroom became quiet, and then applause erupted. The teacher said, "Hyejin, you're brave, brave." Those words were unfamiliar. Hyejin wasn't brave, she just wanted to live. But those words gave Hyejin strength. In America, Hyejin learned many things. The biggest learning was diversity. The school had students from all kinds of countries: Mexico, China, India, Africa. Everyone was proud of their culture. Hyejin also told her story for the first time: life in North Korea, the defection process, adaptation in South Korea. Her friends listened with bated breath. "I can't believe you went through all that. You're so strong, Hyejin." Their words gave Hyejin courage. Hyejin realized that her past wasn't shameful but special. During the 3-month exchange student period, Hyejin traveled across America. In front of the Statue of Liberty in New York, Hyejin cried. The freedom that huge statue symbolized. Hyejin knew better than anyone how precious that was. At the Lincoln Memorial in Washington, D.C., Hyejin read Martin Luther King's speech, "I have a dream." That sentence struck her heart. I have a dream too. A unified Korean peninsula, a free North Korea. She wanted to do something for that dream. On the plane returning from America, Hyejin wrote in her diary, "I now know that freedom comes with responsibility, that a country that can protect that freedom is a truly strong nation. I also want to contribute to creating such a country someday." 2019, Hyejin became a second-year high school student, now 20 years old. By Korean age, she had become an adult. Every time she sat at her desk, Hyejin thought, "I am no longer a child running away." Hyejin had a dream: to become a diplomat and be a bridge connecting two countries. She wanted to be a person connecting North and South Korea, and further, the world and North Korea. Someone said, "That dream is difficult. There are almost no cases of defectors becoming diplomats." But Hyejin smiled. "I've already crossed the impossible. The world is less cold than that icy water on that snowy riverside." Hyejin was no longer afraid. Studying was still difficult, but she was grateful that she could learn. Every morning when she woke up, Hyejin looked in the mirror and said, "I can do it today too." At school, Hyejin started mentoring activities to help defector students. Juniors who came from North Korea like Hyejin entered the school. They were experiencing the same difficulties Hyejin had experienced. Hyejin told them, "It's okay. I was like that at first too. You can adapt over time." Hyejin's words became hope for them. Hyejin realized that her experience could help someone. 2020, COVID-19 struck the entire world. Schools closed, and all classes switched to online. Many students struggled, but Hyejin was different. "This much is okay. I've endured harder things." Hyejin studied harder at home. She took online lectures, read books, and prepared for the diplomat exam. Her mother still worked at the restaurant. Although customers decreased due to COVID, her mother didn't give up. "Hyejin, we can do it. We've overcome harder things." Mother and daughter leaned on each other and endured. 2021, Hyejin graduated from high school. Her grades weren't top tier, but Hyejin was proud. What mattered was that she didn't give up and saw it through to the end. On graduation day, Hyejin stood on the podium and gave a speech. She wasn't the valedictorian, but she got a special speech opportunity through her teacher's recommendation. "I came from North Korea. I lost my grandmother at 11 and crossed the river at 15. When I first came to South Korea, I knew nothing, but at this school, I learned many things being with you all. Now I have a dream. I want to become a diplomat and be a bridge connecting South and North. If unification happens, I will tell the North Korean children that day, we don't have to starve anymore." Applause erupted. Hyejin shed tears. This time, they weren't tears of sadness but tears of joy. After graduation, Hyejin entered university. She enrolled in the International Relations Department. She received a scholarship and relieved tuition worries. Her mother cried with joy. "Hyejin, I'm proud of you." University life was a new challenge. More difficult studies, more competition. But Hyejin didn't give up. She got up at dawn every day and went to the library. She studied late into the night. A professor asked, "Hyejin, why do you work so hard?" Hyejin answered, "That I can study is a miracle. My friends in North Korea are still fighting hunger. I can't give up, even for them." 2022, Hyejin became a university sophomore. Now 22 years old, Hyejin started volunteer work at a North Korean defector human rights organization. She gave lectures about her story and raised awareness about North Korean human rights issues. One day, a middle school student asked Hyejin, "Unni, weren't you scared?" Hyejin smiled and answered, "I was scared, but what was scarier was giving up. I wanted to live, so I moved forward." That child's eyes sparkled. Hyejin felt it, that her story gave someone courage. 2023, Hyejin began preparing for the diplomat exam. It was a difficult exam. The pass rate was also low, but Hyejin challenged it. "I can do it. I've already done harder things." Every morning, Hyejin recalled her grandmother. Her grandmother's handkerchief was still in Hyejin's desk drawer. Every time she saw it, Hyejin gained strength. "Grandmother, I'm doing well, right?" Hyejin whispered. She couldn't hear her grandmother's answer, but Hyejin knew that her grandmother would be proud. 2025, Hyejin graduated from university. She's still preparing for the diplomat exam. Whether she passes is not yet known, but Hyejin will not give up. Hyejin's dream is simple. Someday when unification happens, she wants to return to North Korea. She wants to meet the children there, and she wants to tell them, "It's okay now. You don't have to starve anymore. You can live freely now." Hyejin still studies every day. English, Chinese, international law. There's so much to learn, but Hyejin is happy. She's happy that she can learn. Sometimes there are difficult times, sometimes she has nightmares when memories from North Korea come back, but Hyejin overcomes them, because her mother is by her side, she has friends, and she has dreams. Hyejin says today as well, "I am no longer afraid. I survived, and now I am living, and someday I will save others too. Hyesian's story is not yet finished. This is just the beginning, the story of a girl who crossed the river of death, found freedom, and moved toward her dreams. That story continues even now. In North Korea, there are still countless Hyesians, children living in hunger and fear. Freedom will come to them someday too, and on that day, Hyesian will be there. We're okay now, we're free now. To say those words, Hyesian moves forward today as well. This was the story of one girl, but it's also the story of countless defectors at the same time. People who left North Korea and found freedom. They are all heroes. The things we take for granted: food, shelter, opportunities to learn, freedom. For someone, these are things that can only be obtained by risking their lives. Through Hyesian's story, we think again about the value of freedom, and we remember those who still haven't gained freedom. Someday, when South and North become one, we will all be able to say together, we're okay now, we're free now. Until that day, we must remember, pray, and act. Thank you for listening to this story. Screen white text on black screen. Freedom is not free. Someone fought for it. Someone risked their lives. Remember the freedom you enjoy today.